power of epic courage. Now, how important courage is in this day and age. We live in a very intimidating time. Social media at times can come across as very intimidated. Technology, AI can just make people feel uncomfortable in general. So when I talk to you about courage, we often think of the physical elements, right? But there's a lot of mental aspects in regard to courage that we want to help empower you with in the PPA community. So I've been reading, if you're not familiar with Ryan Holiday, he's an extraordinary author and speaker, and he authored a book called Courage is Calling. Fortune favors the brave. We've all heard that, but what does it mean to implement courage? And just let me read a few paragraphs here for you guys. Courage is courage is courage. It's long been held that there are two kinds of courage, physical and moral. Physical courage is a knight riding into battle. It's a firefighter rushing into a burning building. It's an explorer setting out to the Arctic, defying the elements. Moral courage is a whistleblower taking on powerful interests. It's a truth teller who says what no one else will say. It's the entrepreneur going into business for themselves against all odds. Or we could say it's every founding member who's about to embark on this PPA journey. The martial courage of the soldier and the mental courage of the scientist. But it doesn't take a philosopher to see that these are actually the same thing. There aren't two kinds of courage, there's only one. The kind where you put your ass on the line. In some cases, literally, perhaps fatally. In other cases, it's figurative or financial. Anybody been there? Courage is risk. It is sacrifice, commitment, perseverance, truth, determination. I think those are all foundational elements of what we're building here at PPA. When you do the thing others cannot or will not do. That's a mic drop moment, in case you didn't catch that. When you do the thing that people think you shouldn't do or can't do. Otherwise, it's not really courage. You have to be braving something or someone. Still, courage remains something hard to define. We know it when we see it, but it's hard to say it. Accordingly, the aim of this book is not definitions. Rarer than a rare gem, courage is something we must hold up to inspect from many angles. By looking at its many parts and cuts, its perfections and its flaws, we can come away with an understanding of the value of the whole. Each of these perspectives gives us a little more insight. But we do not understand virtue in the abstract, of course. Each of us faces our own Herculean crossroads. Perhaps we hold elected office. Perhaps we've witnessed something unethical at work. Perhaps we're parents trying to raise good kids in a terrifying, tempting world. Raising my hand there. Maybe we're a scientist pursuing a controversial or unorthodox idea. Maybe we have a dream for a new business. We're teaching people to dream again in PPA. That's a core element of what we want to do here. Maybe we're a foot soldier in the infantry or the eve of battle, or an athlete about to push the limits of human performance. What these situations call for is courage. In real terms, right now, will we have it? Will we answer the phone that's ringing? To each, Winston Churchill would say, there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. Sound familiar, guys? What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. It's more accurate to say that life has many of these moments, many such taps on the shoulder. Churchill had to persevere through a difficult childhood with unloving parents. It took courage to ignore the teachers who thought him dumb, to head off as a young war correspondent, then to be taken prisoner and make a harrowing escape. It takes guts to run for public office. It took courage each time he published something as a writer. There was a decision to change political parties to enlist in World War I. The awful years in the political wilderness when opinion turned against him. There was the rise of Hitler, the standing alone against Nazism, and the finest hour of finest hours. But there was also the courage to carry on when he was tossed ungratefully out of political life again, in the wilderness, and the courage to come back once more. The courage to take up painting in an old age and put his work out in the world. To stand up against Stalin and the Iron Curtain, and on and on and on. Were there failures of courage along the way too? Mistakes made? Opportunities not taken? Undoubtedly, but let us look to the courageous moments and learn from them rather than focus on another's flaws as a way of excusing our own. In the lives of all the greats, we find the same themes. There was a pivotal moment of courage, but there were many smaller ones too. Rosa Parks on the bus is courage, but so too were her 42 years of life in South as a black woman without losing hope, without becoming bitter. Her courage to pursue her legal case against segregation was simply the continuation of the courage it took for her just to join the NAACP in 1943, to work there openly as a secretary, and even more in 1945 when she successfully registered to vote in Alabama. History is written with blood, sweat, and tears, and it is etched into eternity by the quiet endurance of courageous people. People who stood up or sat down, people who fought, people who risked, people who spoke, people who tried. People who conquered their fears, who acted with courage, and in some cases, briefly achieved that higher plane of existence. They enter the hall of heroes as peers and equals. Courage calls each of us differently, at different times in different forms, but in every case it is, as they say, coming from inside the house. First, we're called to rise above our fear and cowardice. Next, we're called to bravery over the elements, over the odds, and over our limitations. Finally, we're called to heroism, perhaps for only just one single magnificent moment, when we're called to do something for someone other than ourselves. Whatever your call you're hearing right now, whatever matters is that you answer. What matters is that you go to it. In an ugly world, courage is beautiful. It allows beautiful things to exist. Who says it has to be so rare? I'll leave you with that. I believe courage is calling to each and every one of us today. I hope that spoke to you like it did to me. And I want to encourage you guys in this upcoming season. What we're being called to do is bigger than us, which is great because we need the help of others. We need divine inspiration and assistance in all things, but we need to be willing to speak in a time and in an era where it's so much easier to keep quiet, to not stir the pot, to not rock the boat. I believe we are a remnant in a generation who has been called to speak, and that's going to take some epic courage. So I think that's a big part of our mandate as we finish out this year, that we ask ourselves what element of courage that we are being called to as individuals. It might just be, putting yourself out there and making videos on social media. It might be picking up the phone and getting more comfortable with calling potential prospects or current clients and telling them about an opportunity where they can make an additional income after they've become a client and we've helped them eliminate some debt, create a family bank, set up an estate plan, whatever that is. So I don't believe courage has to be that rare. And I do believe we're living in a defining moment in history, and our actions are going to dictate the kind of people that we are going to be viewed as. And I think that's a huge part of our legacy, of how we're going to be remembered by our family members, that we had the courage to stand up and try something new, to try something different, to go against the fold, to go against the grain, to swim upstream when the majority of the populace was going downstream. And that is never something that's easy to do. So I hope and I believe that I'm locking arms with a remnant here. I truly believe that. And I truly believe we'll continue to attract people with that DNA. And the more we put ourselves out there doing podcasts, doing videos, sharing the message, I can't wait till we can all be in the same room together doing events. The more we are going to ignite the fire that's already resonant with each and every one of us, the more that we are going to stir that fire in one another and encourage one another to rise up. 2025, I believe, is going to be a year that we need to rise up and rise higher than we ever have before and be those beacons of light that shine bright in the darkness, because as the darkness gets darker, the light always shines brighter. So be encouraged, be hopeful, and just be willing to press in and persevere. Don't fear the failure. Don't fear messing up, making mistakes. That's how we learn. We're here to lock arms and learn with you. We're going to make some mistakes together. We're probably going to fall down flat on our faces a couple times, but with this group of people, we're going to have the courage, the tenacity, and the resilience to pick one another up, to hold one another accountable, and to rise again until we find the success that we're looking for.